Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Coffee Break. It's a Wednesday evening, and they occur every week without fail, almost this time. Except, actually, it's possible that next week I may have to tweak things a bit, but we'll see how that goes. Let me get rid of the screen share. So this week, Mike and I are going to talk about. Actually, Mike, here's the thing. How do you pronounce it? Is it Cadaqués?
Cadaqués.
Oh, I'm glad I asked you
I have a
that.
hard time pronouncing it as well. In fact, it was interesting. I was actually in Valencia, and one of the persons was asking me where I was going to go, and I pronounced it Cadaqués, and he was looking at me. I had no idea, but it's Cadaqués is how they pronounce it.
Okay. Explain where it is, because we were talking just earlier that it's actually been somewhere, thanks largely to Jaume Moran, who is probably one of the most effective social media digital marketing destination marketing organization executives in Spain, and promoter of his territory in terms of social media, because I think he's had pretty much every blogosphere in the European, every blogger in the European blogosphere out there, except for me. I was thinking earlier I must be the only one who hasn't been, because a lot of you went for the TBEX conference as well, didn't you? I think.
I'm not sure. I wasn't there. We kind of stumbled upon it on ourselves. And actually, if I show you the presentation, I'll show you exactly where it is.
Okay, perfect. Let's go.
And switch over to that.
Yep.
I'll start screen share. You see me? All right.
We got it. Yep.
All right. Is it up?
It's up.
All right, so this is one of the things, Cadaqués is a vacation from your vacation. And to kind of give you a background on where it's located, here would be Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
And from Barcelona, you can drive and you can get there in about 2 hours, or you could take a train to Figueres. And from there, you'd hop on a bus, ended up in Cadaqués.
Right, okay.
That's one of the reasons why it's kind of off the beaten path, because you can't get there by train alone. You have to get there either by train, or bus, or drive. So that's one of the reasons there's not an abundance of tourists there. It is a tourist place. There are tourists there, but it's not flooded by tourists because of that situation. And I think there's only like 3 buses per day leaving Figueres to Cadaqués. So that's one of the reasons we chose to drive, but looking back at it, it would have probably been better to take the train-bus combination.
Now, one of the things that your map, unless you've already thought of this and you've got another one lined up that zooms out, but doesn't really show, is that what we're talking about here is the top end of Spain, on the Mediterranean coast.
Yeah, and in fact, if you see the little pink line at the top, that's France.
Yeah.
So literally, France is only about 10 or 12 kilometers away. I mean, maybe 20 kilometers, but France is right there. It's not that far away.
And that's one of the reasons why it's sort of off the tourist track, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really one of the reasons to go is because of that. You think of the Costa Sol, and it's just overrun by tourists. You even think in Barcelona, which I love Barcelona, but you go anywhere near the beach and it's just overrun with people. This place isn't like that. This place is different. And give you a look, it's a Mediterranean city that has all of the likings of cities along the Mediterranean. It's a fishing community, but it's a tourist city, but it's not overrun by tourists. And, when you look at it, people ask a lot of times, well, what is there to do? And this, of course, is a map you can see right here. This is kind of the center of the city.
Yep.
And one of the things you can do is you can walk out to this little island, and as you're walking along the bay, you're going to see pebble beaches just like this. And like I said, you don't see any people on it. There's a few people, but it's just not overrun by people or by tourists.
And what time of year are we talking about here?
This is all in September, so this is almost a year ago.
Yep.
And one of the things, there's this little island kind of on the south side of the bay, and you cross this little stone bridge to get to the island, and of course you're rewarded with views like this.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
this really, really fun, spectacular place to go. And you know, if you go to the other side of the bay, you can make this little walk along the way, where you end up kind of where the arrow is kind of where the windsurfers are.
Oh, right. Okay.
And this is the view you get.
Yep.
And you know, as you're walking along there, you can walk down. It's about 10 meters below. There's sometimes little paths, not always the easiest path to negotiate, but there's these little paths down to the bay, and of course you end up with just this beautiful water like you see here, and effectively you can end up on your kind of only semi-private beach, you know, where there's not too many people on if you want to go and swim here.
And this is the Mediterranean. This is, you know, warm water.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And as you keep walking, you kind of round this little area where the little boats are set, and again, you get this sensation or feeling. It's not. It is a tourist area, but it's not overrun by tourists. So you know, you have everyday life with people having their own small little boats there. And then, of course, you can kind of go to the windsurfing area where it looked like there was you could rent a windsurfer and try it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
And
It looks like a dramatic coastline, doesn't it? It
it really
reminds me
is.
of parts of the southwest, you know, parts of Devon and Cornwall.
It's you know, and of course the Costa Brava is the rugged coast, you know, so it's a very rugged type of area, rocks and things of that nature, and it's definitely, you know, a cool place to visit. Now, one of the things that people go there for is for the Port Legat Museum House, and to get from the center of the city to there, it's about a 15, maybe a 20-minute walk in that range, but it's a nice walk, a comfortable walk. And of course, the reason that you would see the Port Legat Museum House is it's also known as the Dali House.
Yeah.
And that's where, of course, the artist Dali lived.
Yeah.
And he started his little house. Of course, he grew up in Figueras, but he decided to, after he went to school, he built or purchased a small little fishing house and expanded that. And if you look at the top left-hand image, you'll see kind of these kind of houses that are you know, built out of multiple houses. So it's one kind of large house now, but he just added on over the years to this small little fishing house. And you can see kind of hints of artwork, you know, throughout, you know, his house and in and around the house. For example, here you can see a tree that kind of grew up or grew through a boat that was placed there as the tree was growing. And you see these kind of playful things throughout. Of course, you can take and tour the house, which is it's just a fantastic tour. And all the furniture is original, and all even personal items that were there were just left there. And when his wife died, he pretty much just abandoned and left the house as it was, with all of the furnishings and items still in the house. And of course, at the top is what they call, I think they call it the yellow room. The one below that would be the library, and then the image to the right of the screen would be the dining room with the U-shaped table or the horseshoe-shaped table and the rhinoceros or the rhino head on the top with the wings. And you see kind of this play of nature throughout the house, whether it's the swans or the snail or the rhino in this instance.
Now, is the bit I'm not sure about is this what they call the Dali Museum, or is that a separate thing?
No, the Dali Museum is in Figueras, and that's where he was born. So that would be the place if you were to say, let's say, take the train, you would end up in Figueras, and that's where the Dali Museum is. This is his house.
Oh, okay.
So you don't really see any of his artwork here. I mean, there's one or two pieces, but if you want to see his art, it's more in Figueres.
Yeah.
But here is a place where he lived, I think, for almost 50 years.
Here's where he lives, surrounded by the things that inspired his artwork, but his artwork
Exactly.
itself you'll find in the museum. Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's a very interesting place to tour. I'm not really into surrealism, and I was never, let's say, a big fan of Dali. Not that I disliked his work, but I just was never a big fan. But certainly after touring this house, I had a much greater appreciation for the artist and for his work as well.
It wasn't just well. You go on with the presentation because you may come to this point, but Dali isn't the only artist, is he, that was drawn to this area?
No, there were several, but I'm on this presentation. I'm only reviewing just Dali.
Okay.
So one of the things you can see is that he used just kind of things that we would normally think of as junk, kind of these signs, these Pirelli signs. Now you'd see the signature. He actually created the sofa, the signature sofa. It's the pair of lips, and it's the Mae West lip sofa. So he used her lips and created a sofa based on that. And there's actually one in the house and one outside. And if you look at the bottom image, it just looks like a bunch of rubbish just kind of thrown out on the lawn. And as I was walking to this, I was like, man, there's just just kind of this junk. And as you go, when you visit this, there's a platform, and you get on top of the platform. And once you get on top of the platform, it actually becomes a work of art in itself. But it's only visible from the platform. In other words, if you're looking at it, you just think it's junk.
You know what it was. Yeah.
From the platform, it's actually called the Christ of the Rubbish, is the name of the artwork. And it's truly, when you see it, it's like, wow, it's actually more than, because just looking at it from the ground level, you don't really think much of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's nice. I could spend a happy hour in that bar.
Absolutely, and it's a very relaxing place, and you're not really rushed to see things. You're just more kind of enjoying your time. And the next thing I just wanted to mention is kind of eating, and there are a fair amount of places to eat. Of course, since it's a tourist area, there are some places that are okay and not that great. But we came across one place for lunch, Casa Noon. That was a really good little place, and it seemed to outdo the rest as far as people that were there, but also just the food that was there. We went there both days that we were in Cadaqués for lunch, and really enjoyed it. And one of the things I noticed is when we went to different places to eat, they all served these little small olives that you see, and it's more the green ones. This place had both both kinds of olives, but every place we went to had these little smaller green olives. And they're not pitted. They still have their pits in them, but they're spectacular little olives. But this was a good place to visit for lunch. We really enjoyed it. And then for dinner, we went to this place. It was called Anita Knit, and it was a very unique place. Now, the restaurant was good. The food wasn't certainly spectacular, but it was still good. It was a decent place to visit. But what was interesting is the atmosphere you're in, and there are no menus. In other words, you go in and you're kind of in this cave area, right, or this arched area of the building. You're sitting with other people, so there could be a party of 6 or 8 with you. There's no individual tables or no tables for couples. You're going to eat in a group, more than likely. And like I said, there are no menus. So what happens is the owner will ask you, do you want white or red wine? And whatever wine's available, he'll serve that wine to you. And then he'll ask you, what do you like? Do you like, meat? Do you like fish? Do you like seafood? And then he'll prepare a meal for you based on what he has available.
Yeah.
So it ended up it was fairly reasonable for the both of us. I think with the wine it was like 65 euros or 70 euros in that range. It might have been a little bit more, but it wasn't that much more than that. And it was good food. It was definitely decent food. It was definitely enjoyable. But it's more of the atmosphere you're with. You're with other people. You're talking with other people that you probably don't know, and the fact that you're not too sure what you're going to get and what you ordered, and you don't even know really how much it's going to cost. So it definitely is a unique place. And when we went, the lady at the bottom, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, she was actually from France. And they literally just drove down that evening just to visit this restaurant. And she asked, actually, how did we find out about it? Because she said, it's a local place, and tourists usually don't visit this place. So she was kind of really amazed that we found this place. And like I said, it's definitely a place I'd consider or recommend visiting on your trip to Cadaqués one evening.
So it's a bit like dining in somebody's house.
Kind of, yeah, really, yeah, it kind of is.
Because you are talking with the other guests. I mean, that's sort of part of the experience.
It definitely is. It forces you to talk with the guests because you're really, up close and personal with them in a very kind of intimate setting.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I'd highly recommend visiting this place when you're there. It's a good time, and like I said, the food is good. But it's not like you go there specifically for the food. It's more of the whole atmosphere of the evening.
Now you, Mike, produce your Mike's Travel Guide .com, and this is one of the places that you list in it. So the details for this restaurant and the other places you mentioned are all on the site, aren't they?
That's correct. You'll have a detailed list of where they are, their addresses, the restaurants we recommend, and it would be these two restaurants, and also kind of what to expect when you get there. So the little description I gave, you'll find a similar description on the website itself. But all the information that we're viewing is available in detail on our website. So we'll have one page that will show the walk along the bay. We have another post that will show the visit to the Port Lagat House, and also show all of these items we showed, even with the same images.
Okay. And for anybody watching at the moment, I've put the link to that particular post or set of posts on your website up on the base panel on the right there, so people can go straight to that at any point. I will just check actually and see if anybody has asked any questions. Nope, none in at the moment. Okay, no problem. Okay, right, carry on.
You can certainly get dessert here, and I think we did. But when we're traveling and visiting different places in Europe, we're always looking to kind of sample and try different things from different areas. And we came across this one little bakery right around the corner from this restaurant that I've previously shown. And if you look at the window to the right of the entrance, you'll see kind of these little stack things. And these are Brielles de Cadaqués. I'm probably slaughtering the pronunciation of these. It's little almond-coated, thin little pastries.
Oh, right, there's almonds. Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of covered with kind of like this honey, kind of sugary coating, and you got the almonds, and you got this thin little crispy pastry. And there's, literally hundreds of these sitting right there in the windows. I'd never seen anything like this anywhere else. So I'm like, I'm game. I have to try this. It's in the window for a reason. And it's really fantastic little pastry to get, and it's fairly inexpensive. I think we might have spent €1 or €1.20 or something for this. It's fairly inexpensive, but it's quite good, and it's, like I said, it's unlike anything I've had anything around in all my travels to this nature. I mean, I certainly had almonds on things, but not on such a thin, large pastry of this size and nature. So it's definitely one of the things I'd highly, recommend, trying on your visit to Cadaqués.
So do we think that these are actually, are they unique, do you think, just to the shop, or actually are they something that is known about is unique to the town and
I think it's unique to
part
the
of the town's
town. This
tradition.
shop does it well.
Okay, so there'll be other shops you could buy something similar.
I think so. And there were different ones that had some with pine nuts on them. They had some without anything on them, but this was the most popular one here
Okay.
with the almonds.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I think I saw a few of them around, but this place seemed to have a better looking selection, and certainly a lot of them.
Okay, excellent.
So, just kind of closing, and certainly, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. But, this is when you visit there, this is what you get. You get this kind of sleepy community. It's a fishing community that you can go to and enjoy your time and get away from the other places. And, like I said, I love going to Barcelona, but it's a very, busy place where there's a lot of tourists and there's a lot of things going on. This place, it's a fun place to visit. There's not a lot of stuff going on, but it's certainly fun and nice to sit back and relax and just enjoy wandering, whether it's through the city or around the bay or going to the Dali house. I mean, there's a fun place to be. We were there for 2 nights, and just revisiting and putting this together, the presentation together for today, I was just like, man, I wish I was there now. It'd be a great time to be there right now.
It's one of those places that you sort of put in your pocket and then go back to when you want to relax somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's so few places nowadays that offer a good place to relax because there's so many places that are just literally overrun with tourists. There's very few secret places or hidden places, and I'm not saying this place is hidden, but due to the nature on how to get there, it kind of limits who goes there and who doesn't, as opposed to the other places, even let's say in Portugal, that it's just well discovered and is so easy to get to. This place is a little off the beaten path, and I think that's one of the reasons why I consider it kind of a special place, because there are people there visiting, but it's not overrun by those tourists.
Um, I was struck by, we were talking earlier about it being a home to Dali. I did go and quickly have a look just to check that I was right about the others. Other notable artists have also spent time living there, and they include Pablo Picasso. Juan Miro is the other well-known Spanish artist, and then a whole bunch of others: Marcel Duchamp, Richard Hamilton, Albert Rafael Casamada, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Literally a whole bevy of artists, and it struck me that it's a bit like what's it called? St Ives in Cornwall in that respect. So somewhere where artists naturally gravitated. And I know that in the case of St Ives, one of the things that drew them there was the light. There is a kind of a peculiar quality, a speciality of the light in that part of the world, with the water and the color of the landscape and the buildings and all the rest of it. And I wondered if you got the same impression in Cadaqués.
Yeah, it's certainly, looking at, let's say, some of the, we'll just kind of go back to some of the scenes that we saw, especially, let's say, here,
Mm.
and looking at this, and yeah, you do get some of that nice
Yeah.
amber light, and definitely colors, and certainly rich landscapes to work with. But the other thing is, especially, let's say, with Picasso, and the artists that were alive during the time that Dali was there, Dali did a lot of entertaining. So his place was set up, and
Yeah.
if when you visit the Port Legat house, the one thing you'll see is in one of the rooms is all of the photos that Gala, his wife, put out of different people visiting.
Oh, right.
Which included
A
people
kind of
like
a rogues gallery of art.
yeah, Walt Disney and several artists. So I'm sure that, a
Oh,
lot of these artists, if they were alive during the time that Dali was alive, they were being entertained by Dali himself. I'm sure, because there was a lot of people that did visit that, and like I said, in that little room, there's hundreds of photos of visitors and guests that visited Dali in his house.
It is a special area, and I was minded as you were talking about it of there's one specialist tour operator who I know used to make just used to deal with that part of the country. He used to do tours to Figueres and also Cadaqués, and I will, if I can find it, put that in the show notes for this week so that people
Well, it's good
can
that you
see
mentioned
those.
that because when we went, we were pressed somewhat for time, and we did not do Figueres. We looked at it, and of course, we decided because of the time constraints that we would rent a car and not take the public transportation. And normally we do, but due to the strictly to the fact that there was only 3 buses per day
Mm.
leaving from Figueres to Cadaqués, we decided then to rent a car, and we did not, unfortunately, do the Dali Museum in Port Lagat. Looking back at it, I think I would have probably pulled out one of my days from maybe Valencia and spent an extra day and actually spent maybe a night in Figueres and went to the Dali Museum in Figueres because it was really such an interesting thing to go and see. And we went and we spent, and on this trip we spent some nights in Valencia, which we really enjoyed, and had some really good food, some excellent food.
But
We spent
Valencia is way down the coast. I mean,
It is
that's
way down the coast, and
miles.
we flew into Valencia. We took a train to Barcelona, and from there we rented the car, went here, and then went back to Barcelona and spent 4 nights in Barcelona. And the whole trip was really fun. We really enjoyed it. But like I said, the one thing I wish we had done was spent another
Spend more time.
day
Yeah.
and toured Figueres and toured the museum itself. And that's one of the things I definitely want to go back and instead of maybe spending time in Barcelona, go back and maybe just spend more time in this area of Spain and just call it a vacation on its own.
Yeah, you could. It sounds like you could really make a very good short break of it by doing exactly that, flying into Barcelona, because God knows there are flights, every minute of every day from every part of Europe into Barcelona. Walk out of the airport, get a hire car, and then spend some time up around Figueres and up in the north, and then come back to Barcelona and see anything you wanted to see in Barcelona. But it would make a 2, 3, 4 day short break really well.
Yeah, it really would. And anyone that's flying into Barcelona and is spending any more time than 4 days, that would definitely be highly recommended to actually, either hire a car or take the train/bus combination and spend some time in this area and Figueres. You could easily spend 3 nights in the two cities combined and really end up with this really excellent vacation and not doing what a lot of other people normally do, which is just see Barcelona, which is a beautiful city, and I love visiting, but this adds a different dimension to it. And when you go back and look, when I reflect on this visit, looking back, the time I think of the most enjoyable time was actually in this area.
Well, we must get you to the Asturias, which is I think if you like that neck of the woods, I think you'd love the Asturias as well.
And where is that located?
That's northern Spain. It's the Atlantic coast, Bay of Biscay.
Okay.
So it's wedged between Galicia and oh God, the other what's it called? Basque Country.
Yeah, that's actually the next time I go to Spain is where I want to go is to the Basque region. Unfortunately, have not been there yet, and that will be my, like I said, my next destination to Spain.
You'll love it. I can hook you up with some people there in the tourist office who'd love to have you.
Oh, I would definitely definitely love to take that information. So after we can chat afterwards, and I'd definitely love to get that information.
That I was struck when you were describing it, and also from the look of it as well. It reminds me of part of the Asturias, but also it has that same kind of feel to it. That it's off the beaten track. It's where the Spaniards would go, but it's not overrun with other tourists. And in the case of the Asturias, it's also it's a mountainous region, as I know that the back end of Catalonia is as well. And so it is, absolutely the place to go for if you're keen on adventure sports, kayaking, and that kind of thing down rivers, or cycling, that kind of stuff, walking in the hills. Then it's absolutely the territory, and it ends up on a sunken coastline, lots of cliffs and beautiful views and little fishing villages nestled into these on the water's edge, a bit like this. So yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, I think you'd love it. The only thing it hasn't got is Dali.
Yeah. Well, just as you mentioned earlier, there is the website, and of course you said it would be included with the notes. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Cool.
And wrong one.
That's all right.
That's same thing again.
Anyway, that's brilliant.
Are you back on now? Do you have it?
Yep, we got it. We got you. Yep.
Okay.
So that's excellent. That's all we were going to cover this week. Didn't have any other guests lined up. Talking about next week, I'm pretty confident it will be as normal, but there's an outside chance I may have to jiggle it, in which case maybe I'll postpone it till Thursday or something like that, but I'll let you know in good time, probably in the next 24 hours or so, and we'll go from there. And with any luck, Mike, are you likely to join us next week, regardless of what the topic is? Yep, cool, okay. Good. Well, in that case, I think we'll leave it there. It's half an hour. It's been good fun and really interesting, and I'm really sorry that I missed it, because, as I say, I think it was last year there were loads of people that I know, travel writers, bloggers, going down to that neck of the woods, and I kind of missed out.
It's like I said, when I look back at the trip I took, it was definitely one of the highlights of our trip. And Barcelona, like I said, is a beautiful city, and we really enjoyed our time there. But when I look back now, the things that I really remember is going to Cadaqués. And if I was thinking about where I'd be at today, I'd like to be right there.
Wow, kind of a better recommendation.
Yeah, it's really, everyone, I recommend everyone to kind of get out there and go. It's definitely a beautiful place to visit.
Cool. All right. Okay, that's it for this week. Thanks, everybody. And like I say, we should know in the next 24 hours whether it'll be same place, same time next week, but it will be next week either way. So hopefully see you then. Bye for now.
Take care.